Welcome into the Sports Buffoons Podcast. What's going on out there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the world? Welcome back on into the Sports Buffoon Studios out here in Lenexa, Kansas. Back once again, to my left, we have Jason JG.
What's up, y'all?
And Tanner Dawson to my right. What's up, guys?
What's going on, everybody?
Going on. So we're going to have quite a dive into the AFC East today for this show, of course. And we'll be going down to division by division as the weeks progress leading up to the NFL season. But first and foremost, you guys, we have some random Wednesday shots here sitting in front of us. So I feel like we should just kick it off strong and do a threesome shot. Is that appropriate to say?
Anything nowadays is appropriate, right?
What do you? That's not a shot, Tanner. You're holding a mug.
So I got ranch water.
Ranch water.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's tequila and mineral water essentially, and I'm missing the lime, but it's all right. It does.
Are you gonna chug that while we drink?
No,
this?
I'm not chugging.
Okay.
That.
Well, JG,
but cheers, guys.
You and I are gonna sip on some tequila for a second, and then we'll be diving right in. Actually, it's not bad.
Did you even finish that,
Tanner? Don't. You wonder why I got the red cup? It's because that way on the camera you can't tell.
Show.
Jason,
it's a long show.
It's a long
That's right. It's
show.
a
Jason,
long
don't you remember when we did the Chargers game live? We were all supposed to do a shot at the end, and Mike, I think, took a sip.
I do remember that.
That was rough because I was warm. It was not chilled whatsoever, so that was disgusting. But anyways, guys, otherwise we're going to sip on some other stuff here along the way. And I do want to point out, guys, I looked up our record predictions from last year. And so I'll run down the list real quick before we introduced our guests. And last year I had the Patriots going 8-9. They finished 10-7. Jason, you had them at 9-8. Tanner had them at 7-10. For the Bills, I had them at 11-6. They finished 11-6. Jason, you had them at 12-5. Tanner, you also had them at 11-6. So we were all right there on that one. The Dolphins, I had them at 10-7. Jason, you had them at 10-7. Tanner, you had them at 5-12. Shun the non-believer.
Yeah, I was a big Tua hater.
And they finished 9-8. And then for the Jets, last year I picked them to go 2-15, and they finished 4-13, which was exactly what Jason picked. And then Tanner, you picked 1-16 was your pick.
I didn't like their team.
So
Jude's gonna get me on this one.
So our predictions from last year were at least extremely close. We were like a 1 or 2 games off for the most part, most of our picks. And this year, here we are back again to get this thing kicked off the right way. So Tanner, go ahead and introduce our guest here for the audience.
Sure, guys. So we got quite the lineup today. You know what? We'll start with our Patriots fan here, podcaster as well, Scott COBE, right? COBE?
Yes, correct.
Awesome. And you're part of the I-80 Sports and HSBC's podcasts?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. What, by the way, what kind of are those just mainly Patriots or just sports overall? Or
no, I-80 Sports is like a fantasy podcast, and we talk about the NFL in general. And the ESBC is a betting podcast that I'm on. So
Ooh,
we go through every NFL game every week and pick over unders and sides. We've had like 37 straight weeks of profit on that podcast.
Nice. Now we're talking.
hey, we're gonna book that one there. So that's awesome, man. Well, welcome in. Glad you're here for the Patriots here. So
thank you very much.
Yep. Next up, guys, we'll get Johnny Cruz in, the Yankee fan, Let's Talk Sports contributor as well. Johnny Cruz, welcome in, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Very happy to be here. Should be a lot of fun.
Are you just doing the Let's Talk Sports stuff right now?
For right now, yeah, I'm trying to get the Yankee fan show out there, which will be primarily, Dolphins and Yankees. But I'll talk any sport, any team, anything. If it's sports, I'm down to talk about it.
You're on it. You already do it on Let's Talk Sports. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Awesome. Next up, guys, we'll go ahead and bring in TTP Charlie Gross here. He's also 12 Square TTP Analytics. All that stuff, right?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Got a lot of stuff going on. Got a parent company called 12 Squared, and we got an NFL analytics company called Trust the Process Analytics. I do a Bills podcast called Humble and Hungry. I got a lot of stuff going on. It would take me a little while, but those are the main things. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on here. And then finally, guys, Jude Jets. He's been on the show before. Welcome him, Jude Jets. You were on Let's Talk Sports today, filling in for Jack. So, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Thank you guys for having me on.
Hey, happy to have you back on. Always a fun time. So.
The best part of having everyone on for this show is that you guys can also argue amongst each other if you choose to, being all in the same division. So this works.
Definitely gonna be some button heads tonight.
There we go. All right, I like that.
Hopefully you weren't too mad at me about my Jets prediction there.
1-16.
That's a little rough. 1-16.
Hey, I didn't like it. Lawson was out already, and I didn't like it. So.
I mean, Lawson out was definitely a kicker, but Zach Wilson wasn't that bad.
Awesome. Well, you know what? We're going to kick it off, guys, today with the New England Patriots, which is Scott's specialty here. Let's want to break down the roster, essentially, or what do you want to do, Mike?
Sure. I mean, my first thought about looking over the roster just in my time. By the way, Orlads is probably my favorite roster website to use. If you guys use them as depth charts, it's probably the number one place to go. Yep. But I think that my main issue with the Patriots is that I didn't see a lot of changes or necessarily improvement on the roster. I think you have essentially the same team as last year, besides the addition of Devontae Parker. But otherwise, I guess I have a question to start it off. Like, basically, from that perspective, like, is this going to be enough for Mac Jones to be able to take this team and him step forward as an individual within this offense coming forward?
Well, if you guys could tell me who the offensive coordinator is, I can give you a better handle. But I don't. I think they're going to take a step back. I think they took some teams by surprise last year in terms of Belichick went back to the running game a majority of the time because of the rookie quarterback, and I think that's going to go 50-50. I think he's going to trust Mac Jones to throw the ball a little bit more. Getting Devontae Parker probably was a good move if he stays healthy for 17 games, which he hardly ever has. Jacoby Myers is an up-and-comer, but he needs to score some touchdowns, obviously. Mm-hmm. Kendrick Bourne is an X factor for me. I don't know if he can repeat what he did last year. And then the rest of the receiving core is just guys, just a bunch of guys. In terms of their running backs, it's Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, and they drafted a couple guys, but I don't see Belichick putting the running game in those rookies' hands. So it's basically the same team. The defense did get a little bit quicker. They were slow last year. And they took a step in that direction better. But I think a 7-10 or 8-9 team is what you're going to get with the Patriots this year.
So are we looking at James White maybe being phased out this year of the offense with Pierre Strong Jr. being drafted in the 4th round?
Yeah, I do. I actually do think so. White was signed on a short contract. Kind of like I think Belichick likes him as a Patriot, so that's why he didn't want him to go Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was rumored to take him with Brady. So I think that's going to be the case. I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to get more and more of the share of this backfield for the Patriots. He's been working on his pass routes. He's been working on his catching game. So I think it's going to be Stevenson, Harris, and then Strong.
So right quick, what are your thoughts on the N'Keal Harry trade? N'Keal Harry, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
N'Keal Harry, you got it.
So they gave him away for a 7th round pick, and my question to you would be, any worries about Bill Belichick and his ability to draft? Has he regressed as far as his
receivers have always been a problem for drafting for the Patriots. So
yeah, I have always said Bill Belichick, the GM, does not do Bill Belichick, the head coach, any favors at all. He drafts the wrong wide receivers. Any skill position he drafts outside of Mac Jones and Tom Brady have been a failure for the most part. When you look at the running backs, it's been Corey Dillon, who we got in free agency or a trade.
Yeah.
Maroney was okay his first year, but he tailed off big time.
Danny Woodhead, of course.
Antoine Smith was the other guy in their Super Bowl, first time Super Bowl. So he hasn't drafted any skill guys that have worked out well. Chad Jackson never saw the field.
Big bust, yeah.
Yep. N'Keal Harry, big time bust. Who knows with this Tyquan Thompson? There's another guy he drafted high. He may be a bust too. He's fast. I know he's fast, but can he catch the ball? Nobody knows. So
he might be a worse general manager than LeBron James, like LeBron player / GM.
Right.
Well,
Player GM, coach GM.
Yeah, he's just set in his ways, and he won't deviate from what he wants. And he doesn't listen to anybody. I don't think in the organization when he drafts, he just looks at a guy and says, I'm going to turn him into the patriot that I want him to be, and it never pans out for him. So.
And everybody else, you guys can join in if you have questions as well.
I do want to point out, by the way, every Patriots rookie is numbered between 50 and 60 at the moment. So that's kind of funny if you look at their depth chart. And if you remember, it was like a couple of years ago or whatever it was, maybe a year ago, the quarterback was number 50 for a while. I think it was Mac Jones, or number 50 to training camp. Maybe it was just for shits and giggles. I don't know. But
Bailey Zapp has 55.
I want to say he picked that up from a different coach that he worked under, not Parcells, but somebody else. Maybe it was Paul Brown or something, that they put all their rookies between 50 and 60. So that's why.
Interesting.
That's why he does
I did read at one point Steve Belichick's book, Football Scouting Strategies, which I thought was a great book. And it's pretty crazy, that family and how intelligent they are when it comes to football. And as great of a scouting family that is, somehow drafting wise has been such a problem for the Patriots over the years. And my biggest problem right now with the Patriots probably is just that I feel like the rest of that division did get better. And when I say that, I mean, I think the Bills got better. I think the Dolphins got better. I think that even the Jets got better. So the Patriots are the one team that, even though last year they won 10 games, it's going to be hard to replicate that, I think, just because everyone else around you got better. And in fact, the entire AFC got better. And then this is the one team who's stayed basically the same. And in that case, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
Devontae Parker's great and everything. He wanted to come here. He's on the last year of his contract. Kendrick Bourne, last year of his contract. Belichick tends to not sign these guys for any type of money. He likes to lowball them and short ball them. So to me, this tells me that if Devontae Parker does not perform, he's out. He's out. And the receiving core is not very good right now. It could be one of, if not the worst in the AFC, as far as I'm concerned, because if Parker gets hurt, then Jacoby Myers is their number one, Bourne's their number two. Their tight ends, Hunter Henry and John Smith. John Smith disappeared last year. He was, I don't know where he was. So Hunter Henry caught a lot of touchdowns, but didn't do much of anything else. So I agree with you guys. This team got worse, and any playoff team, they're the ones that are not going to make the playoffs this year.
What's your thoughts on Cole Strange? How are we feeling? How's the temperature in the room feeling?
Sean McVay said to Belichick he would have drafted him, and that was in the 4th round. So to me, this is another Belichick move where he takes a guy out of nowhere and a guy that was not highly thought of and tries to turn him into something.
But he's versatile, and that's what Belichick cares about. He can play multiple positions on the line, and to Belichick, that's invaluable. I mean, that's what he cares about the most.
Yep, and he needed an offensive lineman because he traded away one to Tampa Bay, and he one went to the Raiders, I think. So he needed an offensive lineman. I just don't think this guy was fourth round rated for the whole draft season, and he took him in the 1st round. So he doesn't care about what anybody else thinks. If that's the guy he wants, he's drafting him no matter what. So
let's switch to the defense. How's the defense feeling here? You got a couple of young corners here drafted in the 4th and 3rd round with Jack Jones and Marcus Jones, but kind of similar situation. A couple late guys, but also a lot of undrafted free agents, but still don't think they got any better during the offseason. What's your thoughts on the defense side?
So they replaced J.C. Jackson with Malcolm Butler, who was on his couch playing video games last year. So to me, and remember when Butler left the Patriots, there was a lot of bad blood in there. Based on the Super Bowl where he didn't play. So
he got benched,
so to me, he thinks he can piece it together with Malcolm Butler and 2 rookies that he drafted, and Devin McCourty, who's about 55 years old right now. You let Jason McCourty go last year or the year before. So their defense, their secondary is not going to be very good. And I think teams can throw on them and throw. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at a defense that's going to regress. Plus they lost Kyle Van Noy and they lost some other guys. So, he wants to get quicker, but he's also gotten a lot younger, and he's taking guys off the street. He gets signed for cheap, and that's what he did. He signed him for cheap, and he thinks he can plug him in and he'll perform. And Malcolm Butler was not very good in Tennessee last time I checked. So
I think we can all at least appreciate the honesty from your viewpoint, especially coming off a 10-win season, which I think surprised a lot of people. Should we give our record predictions for the Patriots?
Yeah, we can do it. You guys okay going around for the record predictions here?
Yeah.
So you know what, Scott, we'll start with you, man. What do you got?
I'm looking at 7-10 this year. I just think they're going to take a step back on defense, and the coaching staff on offense is not very good. Bill Belichick might be the offensive coordinator. So I'm looking at 6-11, 7-10, probably 7-10.
Okay. Johnny, what you got?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. It's so crazy to hear Patriots fans talk this way about their team that's been dominating for the last 20 years to actually question Bill Belichick and what he does. I agree with the regression. I think the biggest thing is the loss of Josh Daniels. I think that's going to affect Mac Jones big time, especially with this whole not naming an offensive coordinator. But again, who are we to question Bill Belichick? But it would not surprise me if he pulled off 10 wins somehow, but I don't see it. I agree with Scott, and I would go 7-10 is probably the max. I think they'll be last in the division, to be totally honest.
Ooh, wow.
There you go. Jude.
Yeah, Jude got excited.
Jude, what do you got on that?
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat last in the division. I feel like the AFC East is definitely going to be a good conference this season. I mean, definitely I'm kind of in the same range, 7-10, 6-11. My final answer, 6-11 for the Patriots, is just they are the same team as they were last year, which was a playoff team. But literally every single team in the AFC got better. Yep. Every single team got better. And the Patriots were honestly kind of the only team who regressed in this sense. They got rid of coaches on their coaching staff. They haven't hired an offense coordinator. Adam Gase is still on the street if you guys want to hire him. Great coach. Y'all should take him. But, you lost J.C. Jackson. You lose Dante Hightower. You lose a lot of other players on the defense. You lose some players on offense. And it's like you didn't really do too much to replace those guys. I mean, you drafted Cole Strange, who I was okay with the New York Jets taking in the 4th round as kind of some backup depth. You draft Tyquan Thornton, who I had the New York Jets taking in the 6th round. So it's kind of just, the crazy draft strategy, this Moneyball type of strategy the Patriots are kind of going for. And, I mean, maybe it pans out. Maybe Bill Belichick, he is a genius. I'm not going to question him. But, right now I'm kind of questioning them. But 6-11, I feel like that's what I'm going with. They still have a playoff roster. They still are a playoff team. They can win games. They have some veterans on the roster. And, of course, Bill Belichick is their head coach. I don't necessarily think they're a horrible team, but they definitely did get worse this offseason, and I'm going with 6-11.
All right. Charlie?
All right. Well, I'm rounding back into shape here. I took about 5 weeks off from creating content. Look, this is a byproduct of Bill Belichick not really understanding his surroundings and not understanding why he was successful. And the reason is Tom Brady. If you look back at some of those rosters, even going back like 9 years, they're like dog poop rosters. They really are. And Tom Brady took the entire roster for like a decade and put it on his back. And Bill Belichick has not been able to figure out that it really isn't him. It really isn't. I hate to break it to everybody. It's not him. He's a great defensive coordinator. He's an above average head coach. It's Tom Brady. And Bill Belichick decided to spend a lot of money last year. He's desperate for the 39 wins to pass Don Shula, which he's never going to get because he's so stuck in his ways. And yes, I agree completely. He's one of the worst drafters ever. He's just terrible. His hit rate is actually under 44% in the last 20 years. And that's with Tom Brady elevating all these guys. So you can only imagine what the hit rate is once he's gone. He's terrible at being a GM. He can't get out of his own way. I think, maybe 8 wins, but I'm more comfortable in the 6-11, 7-10. And for those of you who aren't sure where that puts you in the top 10 in the NFL draft. That puts you at 9, 10, or 11. So I think the best thing for the New England Patriots would be for Bill Belichick to retire and move on. Tom Brady's gone. The era's over. You're not going to get the coaching record, and you stink as a GM.
Yeah.
And
how do you really feel, Charlie?
Greatest defensive mind ever. Doesn't have a way to stop Josh Allen. He's completely befuddled, and he can't do it. It's time to go.
Piggybacking on Charlie's point, remember what they did with Brady all those years? They gave him shorter. He took.
I remember. He would throw the ball 17 yards behind the line of scrimmage to James White, and James White would just manage to get enough for the first down, and they would do that for 20 years, and they would kill you with 1,000 cuts, and it was the most frustrating thing to watch ever.
Yeah, Brady always took short money, and the reason was so they could build up the receiving core around him. And when they had guys like David Gibbons, Patton, 2006, look at that receiving core when they lost to Indianapolis. That receiving core was awful, beyond awful, and it was only because Brady kept them afloat. That's the reason they got there. So when Brady left, you knew Belichick was in trouble as soon as he left. So,
Jason, what's yours?
So I'm gonna give Belichick the benefit of the doubt here, just because he is Bill Belichick. I'm gonna go ahead and give him the 8 wins. However, my biggest fear in making that prediction is we've all sat here and talked about how bad he is at the draft. My biggest fear would be, what's the best way to get better at drafting? You tank.
Yep.
So I'm not going to put that past him to actually tank this year. And if that happens, then all bets are off. I mean, they could come in dead last place, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll give him the 8 wins to go 8-9.
Very nice.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with most of you guys, obviously, on this. I think that I'm actually going to give them a couple extra wins because of who their coach is in this case. And I think this is the worst roster in the division. If you look at top to bottom, I think the Patriots go 7-10 on the season. That's what I have them marked down for. And it's just, to me, it's probably a 5-win team on paper, but just adding in that Belichick's going to find ways to win a couple other extra games along the way is probably just something I could throw in there. That doesn't necessarily mean I think that they're the worst team in the division, though, when it comes to the record.
Hey, thanks, Dustin.
So, anyway, 7-10 is
Sorry,
mine.
guys.
Tanner, go ahead.
Thanks, Dustin, for the sub. This is going to strike everybody in weird fear. So I think the curse finally hits where the coach becomes the GM, gets by for a little bit, and then it just goes sour. Andy Reid had it happen to him in this Philly. What's his name? Brian, whatever, with Houston. Guys, they win 4 games in a row starting week 5 against the Lions, the Browns, the Bears, and the Jets. They get 1 from the Jets. After that, they don't win a thing. They don't win a thing before I'm 4 wins, guys. That's all they're going to get this year.
So they're tank. They're going to tank.
That's all they're going to get. I just don't see it. I was going to put them on the Raiders, but they travel to L.A. or travel to Las Vegas. So
yeah, there's no.
I mean, as long as Carson's side, he's fine. So I don't see it, guys. I'm going 4 wins in this one.
Jeez, I thought I was low with 7 wins. You know what? I could really see if Belichick sees he doesn't have the team that he wants, for him to say, all right, we're going to tear it all down during the season. We're just going to go out and play and win 5 games or 4 games, and that's it, to get it like a top 5 draft pick. And then he'll trade down, and then he'll trade down again, and then
I just I think the curse finally hits him, and
yeah,
it's a matter of time till we all know coaches becoming GMs partially through the job is not a good fit. It doesn't work out, guys. It'll eventually bite you. So, but yeah, that's what I got there. So,
and the best thing that Belichick was, that he did well, besides defense, is getting these veterans and then making them more than they were. Right? Kyle Van Noy is maybe the most recent example. That was amazing. I don't think there's been anyone in the history of the league who's been as good as that, but that costs money, and I think what happened with the big spending spree, Jonnu Smith, amazing, was, the drafting had gotten so bad, right? And then they couldn't like get these veterans in anymore. And then all of a sudden you've got to go spend like crazy on veterans just to bring your roster up to like an average level because your drafting has been so bad. And now the guy who's covering up the drafting is gone. So if Brady's still there, they probably don't spend like that in a way because like Brady's still there. But Brady leaving sort of set this sort of cataclysmic, turn of events.
Yeah.
Kind of going right. And they should be,
big one.
Look, New England should be very proud. I mean, let's be honest. No one's done that for 20 years. I mean, that's incredible. Kudos to them, but it's over. So now what do? You've got to start over with somebody else, or you just can't keep going like this.
See, people up here, if you listen to the radio, I was on the impression I said once Brady left to go to Tampa Bay, that was it. It was over, done. But people on the radio are like, no, Belichick's the greatest coach in history. He's going to find a way to do it. With who? Who is he going to find a way to do it? A rookie quarterback? Nah, I don't.
Especially not the
he's not special. Mac Jones, there's nothing special about Mac Jones.
But I still think they overachieved.
Right. Absolutely they overachieved last year. And he can manage your team. That's the best you're going to get out of Mac Jones. He's not going to win you any games.
No.
That's why the 5 to 6 wins is definitely a possible thing. I'm just giving Bill Belichick a little bit more credit than that. That's why I'm giving him 7. But 4 or 5 wins would not surprise me at all because I don't see Mac Jones doing anything special.
Listen, I could see him beat Miami opening week. I could see it.
It could happen.
I could see them.
You never know.
I could see that also.
But
I mean, week 1's weird anyway. I mean, just weird stuff happens and.
Yeah, but he never goes down to Miami and wins. So that's the point that I'll raise.
Yeah.
So that's the tough thing. And I agree. I think the Jets could overtake them this year. I think they could finish dead last in the AFC East. It's possible. It's possible. So.
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap Patriots talk. Scott, if you got a Jet, man, be more than happy. I appreciate you hopping on, guys.
Whenever you need me again, let me know.
We'll do, Scott. Appreciate it.
Take it easy, man.
Have a good night.
All right.
All right, guys, let's move on to the next team here. Let's potential Super Bowl favorites here, Charlie. Buffalo Bills coming in strong here already this offseason / last year, except losing, 13 seconds? 13 seconds?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We got our Chief stuff.
I mean,
I feel like we're the kryptonite.
Bills fan ever, so that doesn't faze me. But when I did see your picture, I was like, "Oh, the Chiefs, man, they're not gonna like anything I have to say."
I want to see it. I want to see what he has to say about this because obviously the kryptonite so far for the Bills is the Kansas City Chiefs. So
except during the regular season,
sure,
that's
true.
30-point win, 25-point win.
Yep, that did
with
happen.
The rain delay.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
with the rain delay.
All right. So what are we thinking offense here for you? What additions and stuff going on? How do we feel?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, you have to start with the departure of Brian Dable and the elevation of Ken Dorsey. And I think you're going to see a more, I don't want to say more balanced because they're going to throw the ball like crazy, but I think you're going to see different formations. I think that they're going to run more 12 personnel. They were the league leader, I believe, in 10 personnel and 11 personnel. So I think they're going to scale that back a little bit with the addition of O.J. Howard, the emergence of Dawson Knox. And also, I don't think they really have a great number 2 wide receiver the way we think of traditional number 2 wide receivers. The Bills were basically a top 2 offense the last 2 years, with most of the production coming from wide receivers. If you take away Josh Allen's rushing yards, the Bills go from the 6th best rushing team in the league to like the 28th, just based on running back production. Their tight end production was 29th in terms of catches in the league, and that's with Dawson Knox's numbers. And the running back production out of the backfield was pretty bad. And they really were. So they did all that the past 2 years, basically just throwing to wide receivers. And I think they recognize that this has to change. I think they want to take some of the short yardage stuff away from Josh Allen, as good as he is at it. So I think it's basically going to be Stephon Diggs and then everybody else. My guess is that Dawson Knox or Jamison Crowder are pass catcher number 2, and it's not Gabe Davis, even though Gabe Davis is technically wide receiver 2. I think he's a little limited with his route tree. So he'll kind of just stay there. And the interesting thing is with like James Cook is they obviously tried to get J.D. McKissick from the Commanders, and that didn't go well. So they drafted James Cook, and I think that's a signal that they really want to diversify the offense. They want to give people more to think about, and they really want to get more production and be more well-rounded just in terms of the threats that they have. So like I said, I think Ken Dorsey's going to run more 12. I don't think it's going to be a lot more. Like it's not going to be like 50% of the time or anything crazy like that. And I think you'll see a bump up with the running back rushing production because I think under Dable wanted to be good at everything. So he wanted to be good at zone blocking, gap blocking, and in the end, they ended up being good at nothing. So I think this year with the addition of Aaron Cromer, they're just going to stick to one thing. They've got the offensive line figured out really kind of for the first time ever since Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane arrived in town. And as scary as it is, I think that the Bills I think they can take a really big jump as an offense. And I know that might sound weird, but if you really look at their numbers from last year and the games they played, they struggled a lot the first 8 or 9 games. They really sort of limped to that 11-5 at times. So I think they can take a really big leap forward. So that's kind of scary, I think, to probably other teams.
No, big time.
Yeah, that's actually, he stole some of my thunder there. With
I know,
my
right?
first question on my board here for you is going to be, can the Bills become a better rushing team through their backfield with the addition of James Cook?
Right.
Because obviously the truth is told is Josh Allen is probably their best running back on their team because Devin Singletary has had a lot left to remain to be seen, I suppose. But whenever it comes down to picking up a couple yards, you rely on Allen to be the guy to get that job done. Where I think that the addition of Cook added to the backfield is just another element to this team that's going to help them have more options out of the backfield, especially considering that I think that that was their weakness in the past, is getting these guys to get up to par, and the yards per carry has not really been there for them either. So I think the guy like Cook on this situation is going to really stand out on this team. So I think that was a great pick. So anyways, go ahead.
I was just going to talk about the running backs too. Like, do you think James Cook comes in this year and they actually solidify a main starting running back? Because you bounce between a few guys last year with Zach Moss, Singletary all the time, depending injuries. And then, was it Breda or whatever? Came in towards the end of the season. So I don't know. Do you think Cook comes in and finally ends that big debate of who the running back is for the Bills?
Well, I think the running back for the Bills is Devin Singletary. Okay. But I think that Sean McDermott really, really stands by the whole you need 2 running backs to be successful. If you remember, I believe it was D'Angelo Williams and was it James Stewart in Carolina back then? And then obviously they had Cam Newton. So he believes in that 100%. So no guy is going to get like 80% of the carries or 70% of the carries even. It really is sort of a backfield by at least a dual backfield. And Brandon Beane has talked a lot about, and maybe it's a smokescreen, but he's talked a lot about how James Cook can really be almost like a slot receiver. And I think they want to run a lot of like wide zone with him. So I certainly think that with, the additions of Saffold and sort of Ryan Bates kind of solidifying the offensive line, I think you're going to see better running production, but I still think Singletary gets, 60% of the carries, and Cook almost becomes a sort of running back, wide receiver type, where they're going to run him out of the backfield and put him in the slot. Obviously, that's just my best guess based on the reporting and some of the press conferences that have gone on so far. So we'll see, but it's Singletary's sort of, if there's a water carrier, it's Singletary who's the main guy.
Do you have anything for the offense?
Just one quick thing. I wanted to know what your thoughts were on OJ Howard and how much do you think he is going to eat in this offense? Do you think it's going to be a 1A, 1B situation, or you still think that Dawson Knox is going to be the man in that offense for tight end?
I think Knox is the guy. I think that they definitely want to get OJ Howard more involved. I think OJ Howard is pretty good down the field, down the seam. So I think that's something that you're going to probably see. I think Dawson Knox is a above average blocker. I think OJ Howard's a really good blocker. So I think they really want to sort of use OJ Howard more as like an inline blocker guy, and then really free up Dawson Knox to almost become this like big wide receiver slot guy. A lot of it has to do with Josh Allen and who he trusts, and they've been very cognizant of making sure that Josh Allen has people that he trusts. So even a guy like Jamison Crowder, who's one of the best 5'6" slot guys probably in the league, if you look at his production, he's probably going to start off a little slow because they just want to make sure that Josh Allen is completely comfortable. He loves Dawson Knox. They're good friends. So I think that Knox is really going to be the guy, and I think that Knox will probably be second on the team in targets. That's my best guess. I was a big Dawson Knox guy. Even when he was dropping passes, I was like, just give him some time, he'll be fine.
I started him every lineup. So that was one of the things I loved about this Bills offense during the offseason is they went out and got depth. I love the OJ Howard pick up there with Dawson Knox still starting, because what if Dawson Knox gets hurt, or what if Dawson Knox doesn't perform like he did last year? Well, you got a guy capable of performing who never really got a shot in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Guys, they only dressed one tight end the last 5 games in the playoff. The Bills only draft. So what happens if Knox goes down? There was nobody.
You put in your biggest receiver.
Right.
Yeah. So all right, guys, let's shift to the defense. This is they've lost some guys from last year as well from the defense, but they did pick up Kiri Elam to be the opposite side of Tre'Davious White. What are our thoughts in the secondary? How does that feel right now, and for the Bills' perspective?
Yeah, I think this is something the fans have wanted for a long time. I think they eventually liked Levi Wallace, but they were very aware of his limitations. And my perception of what the Bills really want to do on defense is they really want to try, with their length and their speed and their zone concepts, they really want to force opponents to throw the football to certain places. Yeah, you have Trey White, who's kind of shutting down the one side. You got Micah Hyde, who, since he came to the Bills, I think the Bills have the lowest completions against deep down the middle of the field, and I believe on the left side of the field as well. So he kind of shuts down the deep areas. So then the Bills kind of know where that they need to rotate Jordan Poyer. They rotate him to that other side for safety help. Now with Elam, it's interesting because he's obviously very talented. Definitely more of a zone corner than a man corner. And we'll see. I mean, Trey White, a little unknown. We think he's going to start on the PUP list, which means he wouldn't be back until after their bye in week 8. We don't know that for sure. The Bills just keep saying he's on schedule, and we don't know what on schedule is to them. Maybe the trainer said, look, he can't come back till week 10, and so he's on schedule for week 10, or maybe they said he's going to be back in the week 1, and we just don't know. They're not going to tell us. So if Trey White comes back and he's Trey White, I think we're very confident. We think we have the best, safety tandem in the league. And we know a top 6-ish cornerback in Trey White, and then you add in a young, longer athletic guy with Kiri Elam, and I think the fans certainly are feeling pretty good about things, especially because it's the zone team, and the Bills really just try to get pressure with the 4 up front, and drop everybody else back.
Yeah, I like the defense quite a bit right now, and of course the addition of Von Miller. I don't care how old he is; he's still going to produce here. And for me, Kiri Elam was my guy in the draft for the Chiefs that I wanted pretty badly. Ended up taking Trent McDuffie, and it had me pissed off. I'm not.
You're still
lie.
pissed.
He's still mad about it
because I just think Elam has much more upside than Trent McDuffie does, and so for me, whenever I saw that go down, I wasn't too happy, and especially considering the Bills are literally half a step away from getting ahead of the Chiefs in the AFC. So I think overall the defense actually might have gotten better this offseason.
I think so too.
And so it's going to be an interesting team to watch because offensively they're looking at a whole new system, I believe, and they're going to have a different approach and mindset on a play-by-play basis. But defensively, it's just going to be dudes who go out there and know how to ball, and especially veterans in the safety situation. And Tre'Davious White's now been around for a few years. So, I mean, you have guys on that team who are a veteran presence and at this point are just that close to becoming a Super Bowl team. It's just getting over that hump and, just one thing here or there. And all of a sudden the Bills are now, in the Super Bowl, facing off against the Buccaneers. That's
Yeah.
a real possibility. So they're that good of a team, in my opinion. So, anyways, that's my thoughts.
No, that's very fair.
Yeah, I think they're the betting favorite, whatever that, however much stock you want to put into that. I'm a little skeptical of that sometimes because obviously they want you to bet money on both sides. So, like they're not just saying who we think it is, but yeah, I mean, I think the Bills are definitely a legitimate, Super Bowl contender. A lot of fans here are kind of like Super Bowl or bust, and I think that's crazy. There's too many. Only two teams make it. Obviously, as we saw last year, weird things can happen.
Well, the AFC's hard. I mean, the AFC this year, the AFC Championship game might be the actual Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. And I think that's kind of how the Bills Chiefs game almost was last year too. Like, not to discredit the Rams, I think the Rams are a good team, but that might have been the best two teams. And I think you bring up an interesting point. It's just like, I think we lose sight that like the coaches are learning too, right? Like Sean McDermott, when he was hired, we were sort of like, oh man, a defensive guy, great. We're gonna punt it every fourth down. And Sean McDermott goes for it all the time. Like, he's not as crazy as Brandon Staley, but he's second in the league and going for it on fourth down. Like, they don't care, they'll just go for it. And so that was really refreshing. And Sean McDermott, I think, has developed more as a coach and he's learned more things. And I think, as painful as it was for a lot of fans, that last game against the Chiefs, I think it was a humbling moment that I think that the Bills really needed, because I think the Bills entered last season thinking that they were just like, we're the best, we're this, we're that. And as you guys saw, like, you're losing 9-6 to the Jaguars, you lose to Pittsburgh. You're like, what is going on? And if you look at sort of any sort of analytics, even the Bills were kind of average last year. Like, Diggs's PFF grade, whatever you want to stock, is like kind of average. Like, they're all sort of just kind of average. So that's why I'm like, man, if they can really get their heads on and really realize that they haven't won anything yet, And I just think that losing in that fashion was really a wake-up call. And I think Sean McDermott, I don't know what they were thinking while they backed off the defense like 75 yards away from Travis Kelce. I have no idea. But you can't do that again. I think the Bills coaching staff was coaching scared against the Chiefs a lot of the time the past couple of years. And I think they have to be like, look, we're the best, we're better, have the mindset of, you guys have to try and beat us. And I think for a while, the Bills were like, how are we going to be the Chiefs? Oh no. And you can't coach that way. You can't play that way. So hopefully they've learned that lesson.
Right.
Yeah,
so should we do a record prediction?
Yeah, let's go around the rim. Johnny, go and start us off.
Yeah, I think, honestly, as hard as it is for me to say, I think Buffalo is going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. I think that loss is going to stick with them all year, and I think that was something they had to go through in order to get to the next level this year. You guys got a dude. Josh Allen is a dude, and if they can give him any kind of help on the offense, James Cook was a huge draft pick. Love that kid. He's going to be great. He is more of a receiving running back, so Singletary is going to get the majority of the carries. But if they can take a little bit off of Josh Allen's plate, so that he doesn't have to be 85% of the offense, I think they're going to represent the AFC. They've got every piece you need. I love the coach. Like I said, as hard as it is for me to admit it, I got to be real about it. Buffalo, I think, is the best team overall in the AFC. I think they're ready to take that next leap if they can keep Josh Allen healthy. Of course, I didn't realize that Trey would be possibly out till week 8 or 10. That was a bit of a news to me when I did it here. Yeah, so that might be a bit of an issue. But if they can get some kind of pressure, I think they'll be fine on the defensive end. But if Josh Allen takes the next step, which I don't know how many more steps he can possibly take. The kid is a phenomenal player. But yeah, I think this is Buffalo's year. As hard as it is for me to say, but I gotta be honest. They're the best team, and they have the one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the whole league. So I like Buffalo this year.
What's your record?
Okay, so record. I'm gonna say 13-4.
Okay, I like it, Jude.
I mean, it's painful to say. I definitely feel like Buffalo is going to be a really good team this season. I'm kind of looking at the roster during free agency. They're signing Von Miller. I'm just like, I mean, what more are they going to add to this roster that's going to make them good? I'm like, this draft is going to be really hard for me because Buffalo already has an impressive roster. They have, some pretty solid picks. They're probably going to improve their team much more. I was afraid they were going to take Breece Hall in the first round. Thank God they didn't. But, I mean, the Kyle Allen pick is scary because he's a really solid cornerback. He plays at that SEC level. And SEC, it's an awesome. I mean, I'm from Louisiana. I'm an LSU fan, and it's just a really tough division. And having a cornerback from there, I mean, he's probably going to turn out to be good. I mean, that Tre'Davious White, Kyrie Allen duo is going to be awesome. Signing Jamison Crowder was also a really good pickup. I mean, he's just been super reliable for the New York Jets every single year he was here. He signed a 3-year deal with us. Made our money worth every single year he was with the team. He was just a guy you could depend on every single week. If we would have no receivers playing, if Jamison Crowder was healthy, you could be like, this is a guy who's probably going to give us at least maybe 50 yards, maybe a touchdown, but he's going to be there for your quarterback. And having a guy like that for Josh Allen, who's already a good quarterback, I mean, no telling what Jamison Crowder and Josh Allen are going to do together. And on top of that, you have Stephon Diggs. I mean, Crowder was essentially the best receiver on the field whenever he was with the Jets. Now he's the second, maybe even the third. So now that's just going to be so dangerous. That offense is going to be absolutely insane if James Cook can, ball out. I was a really big James Cook fan in the draft process. I really like players who have either fathers or brothers who are in the NFL because having that experience is just so good. It goes a very long way. So I feel like James Cook is going to be a pretty solid running back in the NFL. Might be the second best running back in this draft. Breece Hall obviously being the best. But, I mean, I feel like this team is going to be really solid this season, really good. Might be making the Super Bowl. Chiefs, Bills, AFC Championship, probably going to be the reality. So for record prediction, I'm going 14-30.
Wow, 14. All right.
Wow.
Charlie, we'll let you go, man.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you my record prediction, and then I promised you something controversial that, might make you guys a little bit upset, so I don't want to leave you hanging when it comes to that. I'm going to say that, I think the Bills' floor is probably 11-6, and I think the ceiling is 15-2. I think it's a pretty tough schedule, though. I mean, let's be honest. There's lots of good teams on the schedule. So I'll say for my prediction, I'm going to say 13-4. It's the NFL. Weird things happen. You're going to lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars in some weird way or something. It's just what happens. So I think that there's a group of 3 or 4 players, at the top of the list for best player in the NFL. And I know most people like to, just put, players in tiers, right? Like here's the 5 best, and then whatever. But I believe that Josh Allen is the best player in the league, and I also believe he's the most unique player. I don't think there's ever been a quarterback that combines his set of skills. He's 6'5", 245. He runs a 4.7 40. He's running QB power. Like he has the rushing production of like a Michael Vick. He's got one of the 5 strongest arms in the history of the NFL. I just think there's never been a player like him who combines all these traits. So I think he's kind of like a unicorn. And now I believe that if everything goes well for the Bills and they don't start out crappy like they did last year, I believe that it's possible that Josh Allen can go for 6,000 combined yards and 60 combined touchdowns. So that would be something like 5,300 passing yards, 700 rushing yards, and you got, 53, 54 passing touchdowns and 6 or 7 rushing touchdowns.
Any thoughts on that?
I don't think with the current talent level on the team, as far as in that situation, that those numbers are going to be possible. Obviously, Gabriel Davis had a wonderful game against the Chiefs in the playoff game, and we saw probably his best game he'll ever have in his career. Jamison Crowder is a great underneath route receiver. Obviously, you have your main man over there with Diggs. But I don't know if he has the personnel. I mean, this isn't a thing where like when Peyton Manning back when he threw 55 touchdowns had the plethora of weapons between an elite tight end with elite speed as well as Demaryius Thomas and Manuel Sanders. I think in his prime was there.
Yep.
And so I don't see that they have enough talent to make that happen for him statistically for Josh Allen. But I will say the blend and combination of his athletic ability is absolutely something to admire. I think 60 and 6,000 is too much, but I could see 50 and 5,000 though. So that's my thought on that.
Oh yeah, it's a strong prediction, and I'm not a big Gabriel Davis guy. I'm actually kind of known in the Bills contract community as the Gabe Davis hater, even though I don't hate Gabe Davis. I just, I want to see him run something more than a go route, like he runs straight lines basically. And maybe that's what he's going to continue to do. It's the sum of all the parts that make a team great. But, a lot of Bills fans are like, Gabe Davis, 120 targets, 90 catches, and, 1,400 yards and 17 touchdowns. I'm like, come on, man. Like they think of it like he's just going to take that step. And I think he's really good at what he does. And you guys obviously saw that last year. But I don't necessarily think that means that, given him more, like he was like the fifth option. So he had the benefit of all these other guys being covered. Now people go, oh, man, look, Gabe Davis. So now he's going to be theoretically the number 2. And teams are going to be like, oh, you see what Gabe Davis did last year in that playoff game? Man, we should probably cover that guy. And then we're going to see what he does with that situation because, he was basically running free a lot of the time for a lot of his stuff last year. Not to, like, diss Gabe Davis. I know he wasn't, like, running free, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think Crowder's going to outproduce him, to be totally honest.
Well, Josh Allen loves slot receivers. Those are kind of his like, oh no, I'm in trouble, or my rhythm's really off. He would always just dump it off to Beasley, to kind of get sort of a footing.
Crowder's the perfect guy for that. Sam Darnold would do that every single week.
Right. And
dump
James
it off
Cook.
to James
Sam Darnold, baby.
Taking
it down.
Dump it off.
Crowder and then James Cook. Those are huge numbers. That prediction, the 6,000 and 60.
Well, it's strong.
Yeah, I mean,
He just has weapons all around.
Props for going for it, but I think that's where I said if more of the team helps him and he doesn't have the burden of having to carry all that, I think the team will be more successful. I mean, if he does something like that, I mean, obviously that's just
I'm counting on that 17th game doing some work.
Well, I mean, you should want him to be able to just sit that 17th game and just watch because everything's locked up.
Well, but they wouldn't. I mean, they wouldn't do that if they were the 1 seed. They wouldn't sit him. They would think that's too much time off.
I don't think they would play him the whole game. If you get
they go like a half or something.
Right, yeah. But I think Crowder's going to outproduce, like I said, Gabriel Davis. But I mean, those are some big numbers. I mean. Right. He's going to be fun to watch. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch regardless.
Big time. JG, what's your record prediction?
Hey, man, I've got the Bills winning the division, no doubt, but I'm a little bit more conservative on the Bills. I've got them at 12-5, and the reason for that is they built this roster for one reason and one reason only. It wasn't to run roughshod through the AFC East. They built this roster to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and so I think they're going to be a little bit lackadaisical during the regular season, maybe a little bit of sleepwalking. They're going to drop some games, kind of like last year, that you didn't expect. So that's why I've got them going 12-5, certainly winning the division. But, I would not go overboard on that record. I don't think they're going to, go undefeated or only lose 2 games.
17 and whatever. What do you got, Mike?
So I agree with most of you guys. I have the Bills at 13-4 on the season. Which I have not decided yet, but that might be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I also want to point out one thing just regarding record prediction here from Charlie is just that if we're looking at a more balanced team, and especially with the additions of the running back situation and Ken Dorsey calling the plays, I feel like even more so that it's just going to be difficult to have 6,000 total yards. And I actually see Josh Allen's rushing numbers coming down a bit, and also in a way to preserve his body for a longer haul. Because, I mean, you want this guy's not going to be Cam Newton, but with a better arm. I mean, that's not what this is. We need to make sure this guy can play well into his mid-30s because that's the ultimate goal, right? So to me, it's like you want to be able to have a running game from the backfield to carry your offense a little bit when it needs to come time to pick up 2 or 3 yards. rather than these quarterback draws or whatever else that they've come up with in the
Sneaks
past
and-
to get Allen, because he's a big-bodied guy. He's not easy to tackle. So
No.
they know that. They're aware of that. But you also want to protect your assets. So to me, I do see Allen being a 40 touchdown guy from the passing, and then you could maybe have another 5 in the running game, I would say. Either way, it's nothing to take away from Allen. It's more about how the structure of the team currently and the way that the offense is going to be looking. I just don't see it being a thing where he's setting records until they really get the receiving group looking like some stuff Peyton Manning had back in the day.
And the other thing too is, like, if you're planning on having a top 5 defense again, you're not necessarily going to have to score as many points.
Right, and they should have a top 5 defense. I think they will, actually.
Yeah, definitely. So I got 13 wins, guys, as well, for record prediction. I just think, this includes wins over Kansas City in Week 6, Packers in Week 7, and Vikings in Week 10. If they can just tackle that first 10 weeks and really hit it hard, they're bottom 7 of the schedule seat cakewalk to get in the playoffs. So no worries there for that. So I got 13 wins. So I think we all had them really high ranked.
Yeah.
So all right. So let's dig into should we go Dolphins?
Up to you, Tanner.
Let's go Dolphins, man. Let's talk some Dolphins here. So Dolphins have been kind of the limelight of things lately with Tyreek Hill, Tua, the hype that has to happen.
Not even on purpose. It's only because of the podcast, and it's called "It Needed to Be Said" by Tyreek Hill, and it's like every week he goes on there and says something else that's ridiculous, and it's like
now he's got other guys
can you
hopping
just
in.
Stop.
It's crazy. So what are we thinking, Johnny? Going to play here for the Dolphins. Like, you got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, so there are going to be no share targets for these guys. And is Tua going to get overtaken by Teddy midseason? I don't know. What are the thoughts?
I don't think that happens at all unless there's an injury. I don't see Teddy playing at all. I'm gonna jump on the other side of the ball first, real quick, just to get that part done. As far as the defense, there's been a lot of question whether or not there's gonna be a drop off with no Brian Flores, but I think McDaniel did a good thing by keeping Josh Boyer there, who was there the whole 3 years that Brian Flores was there. So the defense is gonna be pretty much the same. They re-signed Agba and they brought back all their linebackers. Everybody's coming back.
And Melvin Ingram too.
Yeah, Melvin Ingram.
Yeah, they signed Melvin Ingram. They drafted Channing Tindall, who's a very fast middle linebacker from Georgia, which is what they needed. They needed some speed on that second level. So I think defensively they can be just as good, if not better. And I think if the offense is even slightly more productive than they were last year, that's only going to benefit the defense, because they're not going to have so many 3 and outs, and they're not going to spend so much time on the field. As far as the offense, and I know everything's all Tua with everything, but a lot of people tend to just gloss over the fact that the kid, dislocated his hip, and there was talk that he may never play. And then there was talk that, well, maybe he'll redshirt his first year. And then suddenly he was out there, and apparently nobody knew that he was going to be going in there, including Fitzpatrick or the offensive coordinator, Chad Gailey, at the time. So I don't know who exactly made that decision, if it was a Florida decision or if it was up in the office upstairs that made that decision. But I personally think he should have just redshirted, but they threw him out there. So I think it hurt him going into his next year. He actually played okay. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be the big spectacular quarterback that a lot of people are expecting. He's a lightning rod. I'm not exactly sure why. It's insane to listen to the fan base, because it's 50-50 with our own fan base. I mean, half the fan base loves the kid, and then half the fan base hates the kid, and then there's us in the middle that just want him to be good because we want the Dolphins to win.
More. I think we need to see more of Tua.
Right.
But there's been a lot to remain to be seen, and it's hard to really put together the truth feeling about what he's done so far, because we saw some from his rookie year and then some last year, and it's like, okay, we haven't seen enough, nor with now the current talent they have with the full Tyreek Hill now coming to the show. The running backs got an addition, and obviously
additions.
Right, a couple additions.
Yeah, there's a couple.
So now you're working with a quarterback now has everything that he would need to make an offense work, and so at this point it's like, all right, let's prove it. because there's a lot of haters out there. Tanner was one
I was a big
last
hater
year.
last year.
And
You heard
I
it.
told him to
Right.
calm down. I was getting
Right.
tired of all the hate.
I was a lot better after that. I think it was a Monday or Thursday night game where he came back, came in
against
injured.
Baltimore. And
Yeah,
there was so much controversy around that, whether or not he was ready to start before that. But so nobody really knows exactly the point of all that was the coaching.
Yeah.
The offensive coaching was pretty much a joke last year. It was similar to what the Patriots are doing this year without naming an offensive coordinator. They had co-offensive coordinators with two guys who have never been offensive coordinators before. So that was just a ridiculous thing they did last year. But I think with McDaniel taking over and bringing in three, offensive coaches that were all offensive line coaches at some point, which was our biggest issue besides the lack of speed and talent at the skill positions, was the offensive line. They have a very young offensive line, and then bringing in somebody like Teron Armstead and Connor Williams is only going to help that line.
even Greg Little has depth.
Right.
Like, that's
So
still big.
I think if the offensive line plays well, obviously this is all based on everybody being healthy. But if the offensive line plays well and can keep Tua protected, he's about as accurate a quarterback as I have seen. He doesn't need to throw the ball 40, 50, 60 yards. He can do it. So this whole talk that he can't throw the ball deep, I mean, the kid can throw the ball deep, but when you have barely a second to throw the ball because the offensive line was garbage last year, you don't really have time to throw the ball deep. But in this type of offense with these type of skill players, just get the ball in their hands and let them make plays. And I think a lot of people are undermining the Cedric Wilson signing from Dallas.
Mhm.
I think he's gonna have. I think
That's
he can
a-
have a big
That's
year.
a great signing.
I think
great
he can have a great year. I think Gesicki is gonna want to prove something on the franchise tag. So I think if Tua can stay healthy, I think we'll be the second team in the division. I think we make a playoff. We'll get to the playoffs this year.
It's going to be hard to fail, I think, for Tua in that situation. I mean, I don't care who the quarterback is. I mean, you got everything you need to work with, and even if you're having an off day for some reason, you got running backs there too to take the pressure off as well. I think so. I think it's gonna be a thing for him. It's just getting adjusted and adapting and trusting his receivers because he does have some new guys. Obviously, him and Tyreek have to get their rhythm to going. And
Right.
Cedric Wilson, of course, is another great option. I think that was thrown in there. And so, I guess my first question though for you would be just: do you envision the Dolphins using Tyreek Hill similar to the way McDaniels used Deebo Samuel in the offense, or is this going to be a different thing than what I'm thinking?
No, I don't. And I think there's only one Debo. I think people need to get that out of their heads. Will he do an occasional reverse or something like that? Possibly, but not to the extent that Debo did. I think he's basically splitting Debo up into 4 or 5 different guys between Edmonds and Mostert in the backfield, and then like I said, Cedric Wilson. You got Waddle, who I think could possibly be the best number 2 out there. I mean, this kid is going to be a star. If you know what I'm saying, he's something else. I've loved Jalen Waddle since he was a freshman in Alabama, so he's going to be good. So
It's fun to watch.
I think it's going to be more of a spread it out offense. I think the signing of Alec Ingold is a big signing because they love the fullbacks in this offense. But if the offensive line can actually gel and play average football, because they were the worst offensive line in football last year. If they can play average football, I think this offense is going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, I think Tua is finally healthy, 3 years away from the surgery. And like I said, I think people forget how good this kid was. I'm not saying he's going to be some spectacular, but a lot of people saying that he's a bust or he's just a game manager. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I don't expect him, like I said, to be some huge superstar, but I think we can definitely win games with him, and I think he's going to do that this year.
Yeah, JG, do you have something?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, if you could make a bet on who's going to have the better season this year, would it be Tyreek Hill at age 28 or Jalen Waddle at age 23? And the reason I ask that is because as a Chiefs fan, I know perfectly well that, Tyreek Hill, he can rough up those hamstrings from time to time. So, assume that he might miss, 2 or 3 games or whatever. Who do you think will end up having the better season? I know you referred to Jalen Waddle as the number 2, but is it possible in your mind that he could end up being the number 1 and having better numbers by the end of the season?
I mean, I think that's always possible, but I would. I mean, again, all based on everyone staying healthy. Um, I would go Tyreek Hill only because I think they're gonna mold the offense to try to get him the ball as much as possible. There was a lot of talk about him saying that the way he was using Kansas City, which I don't understand that because it looked like he got plenty of targets in Kansas City.
159 targets last
Right.
year.
That's
So he's
that.
fine.
I didn't understand that, but that's just him with the whole podcast and just him talking or whatever. But if he stays healthy, I think he will be the number one. But I wouldn't be surprised if Waddle does have better numbers, since I think Tyreek will have all the defense kind of shading towards him. So there's a very good chance that Waddle can explode and have better numbers. But I think it's really going to be spread out. I think Gesicki's going to have a really good year. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're pretty similar. But I think, like I said, I think a lot of guys are going to have good years because I think they're going to spread the ball around as much as possible.
One great thing about Tyreek, real quick, is just that his misdirection pre-snap opens up things for other guys, and he's helped Kelsey, I think, a lot of times too, as far as just getting open right away on routes, because defenses are adjusting to how fast he is pre-snap and having a motion over, and especially safety-wise, having a transition over. And now you get that benefit for guys like a Gesicki or Jalen Waddle. So those guys will benefit from just having Tyreek on the field.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and one quick follow-up for you. Do you agree with Tyreek Hill on the fact that, or the opinion, I guess I would say, that Tua is a more accurate quarterback than Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, he probably is more accurate than Mahomes, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is still a generational talent, and he's proven it. So as far as the just accuracy, yeah, I think Tua is about as accurate as I've seen in a long time. But I would still, if I had to win a game tomorrow, I would still take Patrick Mahomes every day. So,
Would you say Tua's comparatively to like a Drew Brees as far as just more of the underneath accuracy? Because Brees within 15 yards was extremely accurate. I mean, it was hard to find better ball placement than what he had provided. But Brees wasn't necessarily a guy you could see it throw 50 yards. So anyway, what do you think of that?
Yeah, a lot of people have said the Drew Brees thing. He honestly reminds me a little bit more of, and I don't know if it's just the lefty thing, but he reminds me a lot more of Steve Young with his accuracy. And I think I'm telling you, I think he's going to surprise some people because he's actually going to have in this offense, and with the line being a little better, he's actually going to have the time to throw it a little further. And with Tyreek basically giving everybody else space because of everybody being scared of his speed, I think he's going to have guys wide open 15, 20, 25 yards down the field. And I think his ball placement is about, like I said, his accuracy, I hope, will be on display a lot this year. So, yeah, I would say he's more accurate, but yeah, he's nowhere near the player that Patrick Mahomes is.
Yeah, are you all good? Ready for prediction?
Yeah, let's do a record prediction for the Dolphins.
So Johnny, start us off.
All right, I'm gonna go 11-6, and I think they're gonna be the obviously the second team in the division. Like I said, Buffalo is I think the dominant one in division, but I think they make a playoff spot, and I think if they can pick up the offense quicker than some of the Shanahan teams have gone, because sometimes it'll take a little bit before those offenses start to click. But if they don't get off to a slow start, I think they definitely could win 11 games. So I would say 11-6.
All right, Jude.
I mean, look, I'm not this huge Miami Dolphin fan, and it's because of one reason. I'm just not that huge of a believer in Tagovailoa, and the reason is simply because he threw 2 interceptions to Ashton Davis. Like, just overthrew Ashton Davis, cleanly caught it. Could have been through that one game. And Ashton Davis, he's not that good at all. I simply just haven't really got the Tua hype. I never necessarily got it coming out of the draft. Wait, okay, I thought my mic was muted for a second. But, but I just never got the Tua Tagovailoa hype. And in the game against the Jets last season, his longest deep pass ever to Matt Collins, I think it was.
Yeah.
He was wide open, underthrew him, had all the time in the world. And he used all of his strength in the body. I feel like short routes to Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, That's going to kill a lot of teams. That's going to give them a lot of yards. It's going to score them a bit. I mean, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, they have game-breaking speed. If you can get them open in midfield, that's going to go some places. But if you're necessarily trying to look for the deep ball, I don't know how great the Dolphins are going to be in that area. Of course, if you could maybe put Teddy B in there, maybe he could do some magic like that.
Oh,
But-
he's advocating for
Wow.
Teddy.
I'm sorry. I really do think Miami has a great team around them, but it's Tua that's getting me. I'm just not that huge of a fan in Tua, but I mean, the rest of their team is definitely scary. It's definitely giving me something to worry about. I'm a really huge fan of what they've done in that running back room. Chase Edmonds, I'm a huge fan of him. I've always picked him up in fantasy because he's always solid. Was hurt last season, but he's a threat in the receiving game. He's a threat in the running game. You have Sony Michel. I was also an advocate for maybe the Jets to pick him up this offseason. I mean, he had a quiet 937 yards last season. No one really talked about that. And then who's the other running back you'll have?
Is that
Raheem
Gas?
Mostert.
Raheem
Raheem
Mostert.
Mostert.
Yeah.
Speed Demon did wonders in San Francisco once healthy. If he can stay healthy, I just feel like that's going to be a really good running back trio on top of the three receivers you'll have. And Mike Gesicki, the offensive line had its upgrades. I mean, they are a solid team. It's just Tua's what's getting me. And also the defense. The defense is good as well. The cornerback duo, it's really solid. Joe Flacco almost threw for 300 yards against him last season, so kind of a bit overrated in my opinion. But, I mean, it's still a really solid team. I'm going 9-8.
Okay. Charlie?
Yeah, I think I'm sort of going to echo the same sort of sentiments. I think, to me, the Dolphins have a pretty scary roster except for the quarterback position. I think if they had traded for Russell Wilson or the guy who shall not be named or somebody else, I think that they're probably the favorites for the division. And I think that they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I think the Dolphins franchise has not been kind to Tua's development, and I think that they don't really know what they were doing for a lot of the time, and maybe some inter-office politics were detrimental to him, which again is criminal in this context of developing a quarterback. I think that the schedule is going to benefit them a little bit as well because they have a pretty easy schedule. And I will say that I believe that Tua's path to success, if Tua came out 15 years ago, I think his path would be a lot clearer. To me, in order for Tua to be successful in the league with the way it's trending is elite mentally and elite accuracy. And that's kind of the way guys like Brady, Manning, and Breeze have made their living. Right? Like none of them are great athletes, but they're great with ball placement. They're great mentally. And I think that that's the path for Tua to find, playing like Tom Brady, death by 1,000 cuts. Tua's not throwing 80-yard rockets, right? He's not throwing 60-yard rockets. But if he can consistently put the ball in good placement, I think he'll have a good career. He needs more time. We need to see more. So I'm gonna say the Dolphins go 10-7 this year.
All right. JG?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really need Tua to do that much this year. Obviously, everybody's looking for him to take a step forward, but my official prediction right now is going to be 11-6, and I personally don't think you're going to need to see anything special from Tua to accomplish that because I believe in Mike McDaniel. I believe in, obviously, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and I believe in that defense that was built by Brian Flores. They're not going to take a step back. They're only going to get better. And so I'm going to go with 11-6, but I think I'm being conservative there. I would not be surprised if Mike McDaniel takes the league by storm next year.
Yeah, I think we have to remember that last year this team was 9-8 with what they currently have on their roster, and then obviously got a few upgrades here along the way with Tyreek and so
Definitely
on.
some upgrades.
So I think this team's only gotten better over this offseason. Like we said earlier, I think the only team in this division that got worse at all was the Patriots. And that's just basically because everyone else got better around them and they really didn't do a damn thing. But with that said, I think the Dolphins' main thing is that you're putting your quarterback in the best situation possible for him to succeed. And so there's at this point, it's everything's on the table, and you know what you're going to get out of him. And so, the last time that the Dolphins won the division was 2008 with Tony Sperano, and that was when the Wildcat came out,
and that was Chad Pennington.
And Chad Pennington and Ronnie Brown, and they came out with some crazy offense which Wildcats not that great. Even Walter Payton back in '85 was running the Wildcat.
I was gonna say,
so it's not like it's a new thing that happened all of a sudden. It had been around in football. But with that said, it's like if the Dolphins with McDaniels and I think his offensive knowledge can put together something, then I think you guys have a really unique team. And I think that what you have with Tyreek is going to go a long ways too. Even if he doesn't go and catch 120 passes, that's not a big deal. The way he's going to be used within that offense, and I've seen it firsthand, obviously as a Chiefs fan, is going to be something that's hard to replace on that team because it's going to open up things, like I said, with Waddle and so on. But I still love that defense too. And I think this is going to be a really good team. I like 11-6 as well. So I think this is a team that's on that verge, and with a couple things falling the right way, could really make a push in the playoffs and go to that AFC divisional round. I don't know that they'd make it further than that, just because the AFC, you got the Chargers still there, who look amazing right now. Chiefs, Bills, it's going to be hard to get past them, but at least you're on the right path, and your quarterback's still young, so it's something to build off of.
Yeah. So last year I said 6 wins.
Last year, Tanner, you said 5-12.
5-12 last year.
How about up to 6? Just give them one more. So you can give them one more win. That's
so this year, with all the additions, I love the defense. By the way, I'm set with the defense. I think they're going to be a lot better this year on defense alone. With all the offensive additions, 3-headed monster at receiver with Cedric Wilson Jr. in play too, because I think that's a key pickup. That was huge for Dallas last year too. My favorite part is the running back trio right now between Chase Edmonds, Mostert, and Sony Michel. I just think those are great pickups because a lot of the Sony Michel really picked up fire at the end of the year last year. So I love him coming into play next year. That could really sneak into the higher up on the depth chart there. But I'm going 12 wins, guys.
Look at that. He's ahead of me even.
I'm going 12 wins for Tua Tagovailoa.
Wow. Hey.
What was your Bills prediction?
13.
So he has Bills 13, Dolphins 12. Wow.
Look,
Okay.
the
I've got
schedules-
12 and 11. I got them right neck and neck.
The schedule these guys play, the Dolphins should only have trouble with like 3 teams in this, and maybe split.
They do have
the
a really
Bills,
schedule.
maybe.
Well, they do have a stretch where they go to San Fran, to the Chargers. They got Green Bay coming over, and then I think they play Buffalo or something. So they got a hard stretch there towards the end of the season.
A little hard stretch, but I mean,
Right,
if you're
but-
playing Trey Lance, he should be winning that game.
Right,
Best Dolphins,
absolutely.
best Dolphin season in 15 years on.
Yeah,
Sunday, I would
it's
say.
coming, man.
Yeah.
All they got to do is stay healthy. All right,
That's the
injury
key
bug
thing,
has to stay
and-
away.
And like I said, as far as it's a fair, criticism of Tua. I mean, he hasn't been consistent enough, but I think a lot of the factors around him had a lot more to do with that people are actually, admitting. They just want to oh no, he's just no good.
No.
The kid has some talent. Like I said, he doesn't have Justin Herbert's arm. He doesn't have Josh Allen's mobility, but the kid can play. He's going to be a good player. I think, like I said, he's finally healthy. And
It's
then
a make or break year.
They actually have some talent around him. I mean, we could not get any separation last year at all. And now you got Tyreek Hill there with Waddle. So the field should just open up for him.
Exactly.
I wouldn't worry about Tua or Teddy because you have someone else on that roster that
So
we should bring up.
Ayo Saba, regular of the show. So Skylar Thompson needs to see the field. He is a K-State fan, of course. So he also mentioned that the Wildcat was developed at K-State.
I would not be surprised if he's somebody that they're going to want to develop to be.
You know what?
He's a little over. I think he's 24 years old right now. I could be
Right,
wrong,
yeah.
but he's a little overage. But
But
I have my feelings about him. But
They could throw him in
he'd be a
packages or
He'd be
something.
a good backup for the next, however many years Tua's there. That'll be fine.
we'll see about that.
One other thing about Miami, real quick. You mentioned the
Right.
schedule. They are going to, at worst, split with Buffalo. They
Yeah,
might
at
even beat
worst.
them twice.
Split with Charlie.
year.
Might have something to say about that.
I guarantee you, they will at least they will at least split with Buffalo. And if you're worried about their schedule, all of the other teams are going to be looking at their schedule, and I promise you, Miami is the team that nobody wants to freaking play against this year.
Not at all.
Nobody wants to freaking play.
Yeah, until I see them beat Buffalo, I'm not even going to say anything, because if you look at Josh Allen's stats against Buffalo, he is a Hall of Famer right now, because he destroys us every game. So until we actually beat Buffalo, I'm not even going to.
I'm going to give you. I'll give you a game.
It'll be must see TV though.
I would hope we could split this year. I would hope, but to say that we'll win both, no, I'm not even going to try to.
I'll settle. I'm going to settle for a split. I'll settle for a split.
That would be great. I would take that.
All right, guys, let's wrap this up here. We're going to hit up the New York Jets coming in next year. Lots of additions to this team as well. Some great additions. A lot of draft picks coming into play that traded back up for a lot of things that, upset Mike on a couple too. Still, he's probably still hurt. So
yeah, Jermaine Johnson.
He's still got it.
Yeah.
So Jude, tell me a little bit here. Let's start with the offense here. Going into play, what are we thinking here with the wideouts? Zach Wilson, is he gonna see goats as well, like Sam Darnold, or what are we seeing?
I mean, we're going 17-0 this season. Zach Wilson's throwing bombs and banging moms. I mean, come on now. But realistically, Zach Wilson,
throwing bombs and banging moms.
he just beefed up this offseason, though. I mean, not only did he, bang his mom's best friend, he also just completely got jacked. You take a look at a photo from him last year compared to this year, and he's just insanely strong. And then not only did we just completely revamped this offense. I mean, the receiving core we have, honestly, I don't think is getting talked about enough. We draft Garrett Wilson, who was the consensus number one in this draft for a lot of people. We went out and, we have Elijah Moore. We have Corey Davis. Elijah Moore had a stretch in the NFL last season where he was one of the most productive wideouts. And that's whenever he finally got healthy. If he can stay healthy for a full season while being our wide receiver number 2, that's going to be really good. And then we also have Corey Davis, who the last time he was not used as the number 1, almost had 1,000 yards. Elijah Moore was on pace for 1,000 yards last season before he got injured. So you already have 2 of potential 1,000-yard receivers on the roster, on top with one of the best receivers in a pretty loaded wide receiver class. Mm-hmm. And then you go out and add not 1, not 2, but 3 tight ends. And the tight end room, I also don't think is getting talked about enough either. You have Tyler Conklin, who quietly had almost 600 yards last season. I know kind of was being used a lot in that Minnesota offense, finally emerged. And according to whatever we've been hearing at camp, turns out he might be leading the starting tight end role. He's been doing a really good job. He's developed a really good chemistry with Zach Wilson. And then we also have CJ Uzomah, who's just been a pretty solid tight end all of his career. He's a veteran. He's a good leader in the locker room, and he's going to, I think, do a pretty solid job in New York and be kind of that safety weapon for Zach Wilson like he was last season for Joe Burrow. And then Jeremy Ruckert. Some people had him as the best tight end in the draft. Personally, I feel like he's the second best behind Trey McBride. But, he's a solid tight end, a really good blocker, was underused at Ohio State. So, just the potentials with this receiving group we have is going to be limitless. I feel like they're really going to take the lead by storm, especially if Garrett Wilson decides to pan out. If he turns out to be, a solid player, then I feel like we're really going to have just a really good receiving room with Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, and Braxton Berrios coming off the bench. I mean, Braxton Berrios did a really solid job last season coming off the bench, and him and Zach Wilson are like this. They have a really good bromance. So just our receiving room in general, I really like it. And then the running back room. Super big fan of this running back room. We get the best running back in the draft in Breece Hall. We also have Michael Carter, who I was completely fine with being our starting running back this season. I thought with the additions we made to the offensive line, and by addition, I just mean Lincoln Tomlinson, but by having him, by kind of submitting this line, I felt like Michael Carter was going to go yards this season, 1,000 scrimmage yards, receiving, running, thought he was going to reach that mark. But then you had Breece Hall in the mix. It's just going to be an insane. It's the running back room we have is going to be really good. I mean, imagine what Najee Harris did last season. I feel like Breece Hall is going to do something like that, maybe even better. And the running back room we have, I feel like could be on par with what Cleveland has going on with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Probably not going to be as good, but it might end up being a top 5, top 2, maybe even top 1. Probably not, but going to be in that range of just running back room. Breece Hall Michael Carter, they're definitely going to do some things. And then the offensive line, Mekhi Becton, there's been a lot of stories, a lot of rumors coming, out of camp about Mekhi Becton. Personally, I think that's all bull. There's a picture posted, I think like yesterday or 2 days ago. He looked fine. He didn't look out of shape. I don't buy that the New York Jets are mad at Mekhi Becton and have been, because if that were the case, then why did we make no attempt to resolve this tackle room this offseason? Dan was talking about that this morning on Let's Talk Sports. We really didn't do anything to the tackle room. We have Mekhi Becton, we have George Fant. And Fant last season had a quietly good season. He had a Pro Bowl caliber season, George Fant did last season. Was, I think, one of top 3 best LTs last year, pass protection wise, based on pressures given up. I mean, George Fant was seriously good. You have Elijah Bear Tucker, Lincoln Thomason, who was a Pro Bowl last season, Connor McGovern, he's an all-right center. But other than that, you have a solid offensive line. And then you have Zach Wilson. Honestly, if you have a quarterback, a solid veteran quarterback in this mix, people probably would be talking about the New York Jets more. I honestly believe if we were to have a Russell Wilson or something on this team, people would actually be saying the New York Jets are going to be dangerous. But because we have this rookie or second-year quarterback in Zach Wilson, who had an all-right rookie season, people weren't giving us, as much credit as maybe we should be getting. Not saying we're going to be going out, balling out, making the playoffs this year, but definitely feel like we're not getting this talked about as much as I honestly thought we would have based on what we made this offseason, based on the moves we did make. But Zach Wilson, as I said, he beefed up. He's been constantly working with our receivers. He did kind of a road trip earlier this offseason before free agency. He went to Tennessee, worked out with Corey Davis. He went to Miami with Braxton Berrios and Michael Carter. And then he went to Arizona and worked out with some of our depth guys, along with Elijah Moore. And then this past, week, he was in Idaho working with our receivers some more. He's just been constantly getting in work with our receivers. He's constantly been trying to get to know them. And he finished last season awesome. He did not throw an interception. He had a really good game and almost outplayed. I don't know if that go far, but he almost outplayed Tom Brady and almost beat the reigning Super Bowl champs with a terrible roster. Braxton Berrios was our receiver 1. Our running back 1 was Ty Johnson. He might not even make the roster this year. Our tight end 1 was Kenny Yeboah. He was an undrafted free agent that also might not even make the roster. And on our offensive line, half of our starters were out. I mean, the weapons he had in that game against Tampa Bay, and he still managed to have his best game of the season, is insane. If you have, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis in that game, the New York Jets definitely are winning it. I mean, that's just the truth. So Zach Wilson, if he can build off of his performance at the end of the year, and now that he has these weapons around us, I definitely feel like we're going to be a team to watch. We're definitely going to be a scary team. It just all depends on if Zach Wilson can take that second step. But based on everything that's been going on this offseason, I definitely feel like that can happen.
Yeah, and this Jets team could be a sneaky team that could just
Yeah,
pop up out of nowhere.
they're one of those teams that'll randomly beat a solid playoff team in the middle of the season out of nowhere. Similar to what Jacksonville did to the Bills last year.
Yeah.
And
But
we did that last season. We beat Tennessee. We beat the Bengals. Those are half of our wins. We beat.
And it's going to happen again.
Tennessee.
Those kind of things are going to happen again with this team. I just want to see if there's going to be consistency, and I think that comes down to Zach Wilson and his play within this team. Because if you look at this roster, guys, top to bottom, it destroys whatever the Patriots got going on over there. So, I mean, talent-wise, this team is actually on the right path. A lot of young guys on this roster. They had the best draft in the league, in my opinion, primarily because they had a bunch of picks in the first and second round. But I mean, they used them on the right guys, so they didn't fail in that regard. So obviously, Ahmad Gardner and Breece Hall is my favorite running back in this draft. You guys got Jermaine Johnson, which was one of my guys. Garrett Wilson should pan out well. So I love the rookies on this team, and this is exactly the kind of thing you needed to have happen to propel Zach Wilson's career at this point and really push him forward. Because last year, I wasn't that impressed with Wilson, because when I look at guys like Zach Wilson, I compare him to the elites of like a Justin Herbert and a Joe Burrow and so on, and see if they can compare to them at that stage of their career. I didn't see Wilson necessarily be able to do the same things at his stage of his career that I saw of like a Herbert or what Joe Burrow did. But with that said, it doesn't mean he's going to be a failure by any means. I just think that he needs to have the right structure around him. The tight end situation is wonderful with Conklin and CJ Uzomah as well as over there. So I think it's going to be hard for him to fail, similar to like Tua Tagovailoa. It's going to be hard for him to fail too. So to me, like with looking at this team, I'm like top to bottom. I mean, just talent everywhere. CJ Mosley's still there, one of the best veteran linebackers in the league. Jordan Whitehead, of course, been around a long time. LaMarcus Joyner and DJ Reed, Michael Carter the second. So you guys got stuff all over the place. My main question, I guess, to you at this point, Jude, would be just at this point. So the Jets might have had the best class in 2022, in my opinion. Can this team surpass? Obviously, the Patriots is a possibility, but can they surpass the Dolphins? Because that's going to be the next step, I think, before you get to the Bills, which is probably maybe 2-3 years for down the road, if Josh Allen ever regresses.
I mean, definitely, I feel like we're going to be able to surpass the Patriots based on the offseason they had. Just they got worse. That's point blank. They lost a lot of key veterans. They lost J.C. Jackson. They lost Kyle Van Noy. They had arguably, I definitely would think it's safe to say the worst draft. Drafting, what is it? Whoever they got in the first round, I forget his name, and he got
Cole Strange.
Cole Strange.
Yeah.
You can I'm forgetting his name. Like, you're getting these players who you could have got on day 3, and you're drafting them in the first 2 days of the draft. That's just making your team worse. I mean, honestly, I don't even know if Cole Strange is going to start day 1. I just don't know if he's NFL ready. Coming from Chattanooga, like, it's definitely, I feel like the Patriots, we're going to be able to surpass them. Dolphins, I'm not going to spoil my record prediction. I said Dolphins were going 9-8. I think the New York Jets finish somewhere around that range. I feel like we're going to get 8, 9, 10 wins. Won't spoil my record prediction, but I definitely feel like the New York Jets are going to be able to stay in the same range with the Miami Dolphins. Call me a hot take. Call that a hot take all you want, but I definitely feel like the New York Jets are going to be able to keep up. I just feel like everyone in our roster is going to be able to pan out. I just feel like we had a bunch of guys take, steps last season. We have a lot of young players on our defense. Our defense line has a ton of depth. I just feel like we're definitely going to be able to take the same step, and I feel like we're definitely going to be on the same pace with Miami. I feel like they're going to be neck and neck all season for whoever's going to compete with that number 2 spot with the Bills.
Yeah, JG, you got anything?
All right, Jude. So I got a very serious question for you right now. You kind of glossed over the news that Zach Wilson banged his mom's best friend. And so my serious question for you, do you think he's going to be motivated by that, pretty good accomplishment? Or do you think that the New York media is going to freaking destroy him and ruin his career?
I mean, honestly, whenever I first heard this news, I kind of was a little nervous because you cheat on your ex-girlfriend with your mom's best friend. It's kind of crazy. But, I mean, everyone just took it the right way. Everyone's like, Zach Wilson has that dog in him. Everyone's giving him love. He posted the picture today on Instagram. He had the caption. He was like, in Idaho, had poor cell service. What did I miss? The comment section was going insane. His follower count has just been skyrocketing over the past few days. And, I mean, he's been getting a ton of love from NFL players, NFL Nation. Barstool Sports has been giving this man a ton of love, making a shirt that said, throwing bombs, banging moms. Want one of these things so bad. But, I mean, he's just been getting a ton of love over the past few days. And, I mean, Kerryon Johnson was tweeting, good morning to Zach Wilson and Zach Wilson only. Just, random NFL players are just giving Zach Wilson a ton of love. And I definitely feel like this is going to be motivating him. I don't know why the, NFL media, the New York media would just be tearing this man apart. The New York media hasn't done it so far. They haven't been making comments about it. And if Zach Wilson were to be asked about it, he probably would handle it smooth. He's done a good job of that so far. He's just not really paid much attention to this New York media. He's kind of been side passing all their questions, all their dumb questions, kind of been answering them with good character, has had nothing but right answers since he's come here. So I don't feel like that's definitely going to bring him down. If anything, it's probably going to boost him up because his teammates have been giving this guy a ton of love. NFL media has been giving this guy a ton of love. I mean, jersey swaps, no matter if he sucks or not, he's just going to be having a jersey swap probably every single week. Everyone's going to want to be like, I want to have Zach Wilson's jersey in my collection. So
That's awesome.
I just feel like, it's doing wonders for Zach Wilson. I mean, his ex-girlfriend, Abby, preyed on his downfall and lost. I mean, she just did so much for this man's career.
I love it, man. That was
Yeah.
great. That's a great story,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
yeah, moving right along.
First time the Jets have scored over 40 in a long time, huh?
That's right.
That's a good one.
Very nice.
Oh,
Very
man.
nice.
Let's do record predictions, guys.
I had one more.
Oh.
Sorry, guys. It freaked out on me on Monday too.
Oh, we're back.
It was like
Good.
something weird. I don't know what happened.
Clickbait.
So
Clickbait.
easy fix. Easy fix. So I had one question here before we do record predictions. Quinn Williams, kind of also a big question mark there on the defense going into contract year. Is this a guy that maybe goes into contract year and outperforms exactly or performs up to what his potential is, or are we seeing Quinn Williams become a free agent next year?
I mean, I've been a huge believer Quentin Williams. A lot of people in the community are like, third round pick. Obviously, he hasn't been performing like we want him to, but has he been bad? No, Quentin Williams, he's been a good defensive lineman. Has he performed like a third overall pick? No. The guy picked ahead of him, Nick Bosa, is one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. Is Quentin Williams one of the best ETs? No. He's a good defensive tackle, though. But you look at his snap count. He's not been getting the same snaps. He's definitely not been getting the same snaps as really good defensive tackles in the NFL. I don't think he was top 20 last season. Even if he was 20 at best. The New York Jets haven't been giving this man the snaps that he deserves. And his analytics are really good. I believe he's like top 10 in every major defensive tackle analytic. He just hasn't been getting the snaps. He's also been getting double teamed a lot as well because the New York Jets, we have had some pretty solid DTs next to him. Fuller Ronafadakasi just got the back at Jacksonville. But the main problem has been edge rushers. Carl Lawson, of course, tore his Achilles last offseason, so that was kind of like a big selling point. We were really hoping to have Carl Lawson creating those lanes for, Quentin Williams. But now we're going to have Carl Lawson and Jermaine Johnson. We're having arguably a top 10 player in this year's draft and a pressure machine in Carl Lawson, as well as just the crazy depth we have on this defense line. We have a guy in Jacob Martin, very underrated signing, had like 5 sacks last year in Houston, coming off the bench. Like Jacob Martin, he's going to be a really solid player for the New York Jets. The New York Jets just have so much depth on that defensive line, and I definitely feel like that's going to pave the way for Quentin Williams. He's not going to be the main focus. Teams are going to have to game plan. They're going to say, well, we need to take care of Carl Lawson. We need to take care of Jermaine Johnson and Quentin Williams. He may be the main thing. He might be the guy whose name's highlighted on the game plan. He might not. It just all depends. But I feel like this season, we're definitely going to see Quentin Williams take that next step. And I honestly do think he's going to get the bag from the New York Jets. I mean, the New York Jets have come out and said they have tall contracts with Quentin Williams. I believe, they said something about giving him that $20 million a year. And I mean, you look at his stats as well. I believe he has the most sacks from a defensive tackle from that 2018 draft class, more than Jeffrey Simmons. People don't look at that enough. Jeffrey Simmons might have had a good 2021, but before that, he kind of really wasn't doing too much. Quentin Williams has always been consistent every year, and I feel like now that we have 2 edge rushers to kind of take that extra pressure off of him, to make teams focus more on those edge rushers and not so much on Quentin Williams, I feel like he's going to have a solid season. Definitely going to be a top 10 defensive tackle and might even be getting that Pro Bowl love this season. He was a Pro Bowl alternate last year, might end up finally making it to the bowl.
Well, that's going to be interesting to see. So let's do record prediction, guys, here. Charlie, we'll start with you. What do you got for the Jets?
I'm going to go 4-13 for the Jets. I am not impressed at all by the Jets. I think they've got serious concerns. I think their wide receivers are young, and that's fantastic, but I don't think you want young wide receivers with a young quarterback. I know there's a lot of Garrett Wilson hype. He hasn't played a snap yet. They traded up for a guard 2 years ago, which is ridiculous. They have some weight issues possibly with Mekhi Becton. Their defense, I think, their defensive personnel is pretty average. Their safeties, I think, are pretty average. You got Quinn Williams and then kind of nobody, right? We don't know what Carl Lawson's going to be. We don't know what Jermaine Johnson's going to be. And Zach Wilson basically had a Josh Allen year last year. I mean, he was just dog poop terrible, which is fine. He's a rookie. He's from a small school. I get it. But if he doesn't take any sort of meaningful step, it doesn't matter like what the other things on the roster even really do. Like, it just doesn't matter. And he was terrible. So until I see some of this stuff actually work out, everybody's all excited about how great Joe Douglas is, but this guy might be looking for a job in a year or two if things don't work out with Zach Wilson. You've got Mekhi Becton may not get signed to a contract. We'll see. It's still a little early. So yeah, I've got 4-13 until they can show me that they have a quarterback who can actually play and know how to like read a defense and recognize even a few things pre-snap and post-snap.
Gotcha. June, go ahead.
So, I mean, as I said, I feel like the Jets are going to be on par with Miami. I've given the Jets the same record prediction as with the Dolphins, 9-8. I mean, we have a really easy stretch towards the end of the season. We, have a very tough stretch at the beginning of the year. We play a lot of tough teams, but we're playing the Browns. Probably not going to have Deshaun Watson. We're playing the Steelers. Steelers are probably going to be one of the weaker teams in the AFC this year. And for some reason, I just have this feeling in me that we're going to beat the Packers. I don't know why, but we always seem to be just like this one really good playoff team this year. I think it's going to be Green Bay. Call me crazy, but I just feel like that one really good team we're going to beat, because we do it every year. We beat the Rams and the Browns that one season. We were horrible. We beat the Bengals and the Tennessee Titans last season. So I feel like we're going to, we're always managing to pull off this crazy upset. Maybe it ends up being the Packers. Who knows? Could end up being the Bills. Who knows? Probably not. But, we always just pull off this crazy upset every year. And so I had that kind of going for us. But I just feel like we do end up taking that next step. I feel like all of our young players take that next step. Josh Allen, as you said, kind of had that bad rookie season. Zach Wilson, Josh Allen, both coming from smaller schools, didn't really have amazing rookie seasons, but they naturally got better. The Jets team that we have around Zach Wilson, I would say was better than what Josh Allen had around him in his second season. And then plus, we have Michael Floor. He's been doing a really good job with Zach Wilson as well. He's been a really good play caller for us. And, it's from that Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. So I just feel like we can take that next step. The end of the season is really easy for us. We play a lot of easy teams. And I just have a ton of faith on the talent on our roster. And that's why I have this going 9-8.
All right. 9-8. I like it. Johnny, what you got?
Well, I mean, it's good to be optimistic, Drew. Seriously, I mean, this is the time of year for that, and you should feel good about the young talent. That's the one good thing you guys got from Adam Gase, in my opinion, is Joe Douglas. I actually like what he's done with his draft picks and with his free agency. I mean, you're not going to hit on every pick, so again, that's a little optimistic to think that they're all going to be good this year. But I like what they've done in the draft. I like what they did in free agency. It all falls on Zach Wilson and his development. He did not have a very good year last year, in my opinion, but it was better than Trevor Lawrence. So, I mean, if that's saying anything. But, Josh Allen in his second year, there was a lot of talk about him not being any good either. And then they got him Stephon Diggs in his third year, and then, boom, he exploded. So you never know. I mean, I think he has all the ability. I just don't know if between the ears, if he's going to be all there as far as reading the defenses and stuff like that. But I mean, he's got a good arm. He can move around in the pocket well. I mean, if everybody stays healthy, I love Michael Carter. I think he's going to get a lot more touches than you're anticipating. I know you like the Breece Hall pickup, but I love Michael Carter. I think he's a hell of a player. Elijah Moore's you got a lot of good talent. You got a good young talent, but I think you're a year or two away from that. So, but it's like I said, it's good to be optimistic. But I'm going 8-9. Like I said, I think they'll be better than New England. Like I said, I gave New England 7 wins because of Bill Belichick, but I wouldn't be surprised if they only win 5. So I would say 8-9 for the Jets, and I think they keep moving in the right direction. They got a lot of good young talent on that team.
All right, JG.
All right. Well, you might as well just call me Jets guy because I picked their exact record last year, and I'm going to try to do it again this year. And Jude has actually convinced me that Zach Wilson's little off-season decision will be a motivating factor to help him to play better. So, but I'm not gonna go crazy here, okay? But they are going to improve. They did improve the roster. Basically, before last year, they were starting from rock bottom. I'm gonna go 6-11. So it's baby steps, okay? We're doing baby steps.
Who wins every year?
I like it. Mike?
Right. So I do like this roster and the direction it's going, at least at the moment. So I think that you have the proper things you need at the moment. It's like, obviously, Breece Hall, I'm a huge fan of him. I think he's going to be a very active part of the offense. And I honestly believe, I mean, you're looking at a guy that's probably going to be somewhere around 1,200 to 1,300 yards of total offense for this team, mainly because there are still some questions in the receiving game that I want to see unfold. Like, can Corey Davis come back and then be productive again once more? Even though he's been in the league for a while, I still need to see more out of him and health. Garrett Wilson, I don't know what to think of him yet at this point. I just want to see if there is going to be any chemistry there. But I do like the tight end situation for the team. And then, obviously, defensively, they got a couple guys that I really like, too. I guess for me, it's one of those things where the rest of this conference is so damn good that it's hard for me to have them going too far because everyone else is so. In the last year, guys, got to remember this is the only team that was worse in the AFC than the Jets was the Jaguars, and they're gonna step up this year. I think the Jets could be better than the Steelers for sure. So I think that's something to look forward to. But for me, I got to go 6-11 as well.
Oh, you copied off of me.
So
you read his paper.
You just copied off of the Jets guy. What the hell?
You know, the truth of the matter is, before we did this, I wrote down my prediction. I put 5-12. The more we sat here and I looked at this roster over and over again and heard Jude say enough things, I was like, honestly, they deserve one more win. Yeah, they deserve it. Give them 6.
Well,
I'll take it.
Quite honestly, I was at 5-12 also until I heard about the news about what Zach Wilson does in his free time.
That's what sold you?
That's what bumped me up to 6-11.
Now, the best thing he should do, though, is get back with that ex and then see if her mom wants to be involved.
Yeah. then you're going to 9 wins, baby. Then you get 9 wins.
The mother-daughter combo, and then you're going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, man. Sure.
Hey, dude, Jimmy Garoppolo dates porn stars, and he's made it to a Super Bowl.
Hey.
That's the ticket.
Jude, as long as Zach develops, I wouldn't even care about the win total next year, bro. Seriously, I wouldn't.
That's the biggest thing.
If Zach, if at the end of next season, at the end of the season, you're saying, yeah, Zach Wilson is our guy, then I wouldn't care how many wins you have.
Right.
Knowing that he's the man going into the third year. That should make you.
That's the important
all
part.
Jets fans happy, right?
Like Bills fans were all like, "Oh my God, we made the playoffs in 2019." Who cares? Like Josh Allen took a step, and you could see that like there was something there, and it, like whatever, man. Oh, one other thing, real quick. I also only give him the 4 wins because I feel like Zach Wilson has to overcome a rookie running back who just kind of falls down on his own randomly.
Right.
If you watch his college tape, it's pretty obvious. But yeah, I think, just Zach Wilson is the most important person in that organization right now. It's not Joe Douglas. It's not Robert Saleh. It's not Garrett Wilson. It's not Quinnen Williams. Like, it's going to rise and fall with Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson has the highest ceiling outside of Josh Allen as a quarterback in that division and even in the conference maybe. Like, he is the key to everything. So you want to see improvement from Zach Wilson, and hopefully, obviously, that transfers to some wins and some moments. But you just want to see improvement from him because then you go, hey, you know what? We don't have to go through this in another 2 years. Like, we're not looking for another GM in 2 years. We're not looking for another quarterback. Like, that can set your franchise back because then another 4 years on the next guy. And then all of a sudden 8 years go by and you've been stinking the whole time. So that's the most important thing, I think, is just to see improvement from Zach Wilson, both mentally, and it might not show up on the stat sheet right away, but mentally, like his reads, his checkdowns, what is he doing pre-snap? Can he see where the blitz is coming from? Right. All that kind of stuff. That's what's really important.
Yeah, definitely this season. The main thing, I just want to take away is I'm not really expecting playoffs. Heading into the season, I'm not. Playoffs awesome, but I'm kind of expecting a similar path to what Arizona had. You take Kyler Murray, you have Josh Rosen, you go bad this season. You get the number 1 overall pick, you get Kyler Murray, You win like what 3 games, 4, and then the next season they're an 8-18, and then the next they're in the playoffs. I mean, I don't want the New York Jets to have like a late season collapse like Arizona, but I expect us to kind of be on that path. I think this season we're going to improve our win total, might even double it, might be that 8-9, but I just feel like we're going to be on that path. But this season, more than any, I mean, not more than a Super Bowl, but like I just really want to say that Zach Wilson is our guy. I don't have to worry about having to select C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or something in the draft.
Right.
I just want to say that Zach Wilson, he's a QB. Don't want to scout a quarterback for like another 15 years. Just hope he's the guy.
Yeah, so I got to put my record out there. 7-10 is what my record is. So I like the roster. As long as this team stays healthy, I'm assuming a lot of these guys will stay healthy for the most part. I think they can do it. So, but all right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up for AFC East here. Charlie, where can we find you? When can we find you?
So yeah, you can find me on Twitter at @TTP_Charlie or at @TTP_analytics. Once again, I own my own NFL analytics company. We got completion percentage metrics that we invented, a metric that measures hit rate and value returned on draft picks. We're going to have player grades this year in some capacity. I'm also a graduate of the Scouting Academy, so I'll be doing some scouting reports and draft stuff pretty much all year long, but obviously when that ramps up, that's when people really get interested. So, yeah, hit me up on Twitter. I got a bunch of podcasts, too, and a YouTube channel and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Awesome.
Nice.
At Jude, where can we find you? When can we find you?
So my @ right here at the Jujets or at Jujets. That's my Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you guys want to follow me on there, don't really post a whole lot. Very active on Twitter. Just kind of post random Jets takes, just random things in my life. So if you're interested, just follow me. But like on YouTube, I mainly upload Jets content. That's really all I upload, Jets content. Talk about our roster, kind of talk about how we're going to do the season, all the type of stuff, do news when it happens, kind of been dry in the off season, but just pretty much make anything Jets content. You think of anything that a Jets YouTuber would make, I do that. But you can, I try to post every other day. Didn't post today. It's pretty busy with shows, but try to post every other day. Probably gonna upload a video tomorrow. That off season it's been kind of dry. But yeah, if you're interested in that, you can find me, the Drew Jets Show, on YouTube, and my social media is @Jude_Jets.
Awesome. Johnny, where can we find you? When can we find you?
Well, you can follow me at Twitter, on Twitter at the Yankee Fin, and I'm on every Wednesday morning at 7:30 with Dan on Let's Talk Sports, and I'll be working on getting the Yankee Fin out there as soon as I can, and just watch out for that one. It'll be on Let's Talk Sports, and we'll let you know as soon as we got it up and running. But like I said, it'll feature Dolphins and Yankees talk, but I'll talk all sports, all teams. I have no problem talking to Jets fans and Bills fans. I'm not the typical I love my team and I hate every other team. No, I love competition in any kind, so any sport. So if it's fun and entertaining, then I'm down to talk about it. So
awesome. We'll keep an eye out for that. And guys, you can catch the Buffoons here. We'll be back on Let's Talk Sports Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Central with Nick Botkins of the Botkins Show. You can catch myself on Monday night, 8 p.m. Central, on Monday night with Nick Botkins, the Buffoons and Botkins. And then, of course, right here every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, where NFL's ramping up. We finally got a full NFL show in, and I'm excited for it. So, you guys got anything else?
No, just thank you guys so much for coming on and hanging out for a while and going down the AFC East. That's fun.
Yeah, we appreciate it a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for having me on. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yes.
Definitely, guys.
Checking out those analytics, by the way. That
Yeah,
sounds
we're
like a
gonna
cool
check
thing,
that
man.
out, Charlie.
Appreciate
nerd out
that.
too.
I am a one-man show, and so I would be doing everything on my own. Just a fair warning.
Okay.
So if I don't get every NFL player's player grade done each week, you'll understand. I'm a married father of 4 who's doing this all on his own. So with support from the family, obviously, but so a little grace. But I appreciate you be willing to check the stuff out for sure.
Oh yeah, sounds cool.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well,
And I just wanted to quickly say, I know.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Jude. Go ahead.
I thought it was really cool to hear different opinions because you're on the Jets spaces, you're on Jets Twitter and everything, and you're always hearing optimism. And, it's kind of put you in a state that, it happens every year. Jets fans, we always get excited. Every little tidbit of good news we hear about us, we take it to the next extent and we just overboard everything. And this kind of brought me a little bit down to earth.
That's good. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
Well, no, you guys should be excited because your quarterback's excited about something. I don't know if it's about football, but he's definitely excited.
Yeah, and that team is getting better, so it's on the rise. So I'll put it that way.
Definitely excited. Expectations definitely were through the roof. Dimmed down a bit because, I realized, hey, Zach Wilson's probably not going to be MVP candidate this season or anything, but well,
Tanner might pick him.
Hey, if he's good 3 weeks, I'll pick him.
Skyrocket, but yeah, just definitely thank y'all guys for having me on the show today. Definitely gonna be checking out your analytics, Charlie. Definitely gonna be checking out you as well, the Yankee fan. Can't wait to catch you on the Let's Talk Sports. Glad we have more members on the squad. But
that's right,
absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, so, I want to thank you guys as well, real quick. I appreciate you guys having me on, and anytime you need anybody on here to talk some sports, talk some football, I'm more than willing to talk. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
We'll be back to talk Tyreek after a while for sure.
Yeah, we'll get you on for sure.
Curious to see how you feel about our guy.
Absolutely, that'll be fun.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Everybody have a good rest of the night.
See ya.
All right, fellas. Appreciate it.
See ya.